I was extremely excited for this book. My expectations were sky high, and unfortunately, I was a bit disappointed with Pet Cemetery. Okay, uh, on the back cover of my edition of Pet Cemetery, it says the scariest story ever written by Stephen King. That's what it says on the back cover of my edition. Okay, and when I read this, I was just like, stop the cap. What is this? Stop the cap. The scariest story ever written by Stephen King? Like how many works of Stephen King have you read? Publishers Weekly. Okay, this is by Weekly. This quote. Pet Cemetery is nowhere near the scariest story ever written by Stephen King, and it is definitely not a masterpiece in any regard. It's a good book. It's decent. There are points here and there where I was just amazed at the writing. Okay, listen. After you've read sufficient Stephen King for a while, you can detect that one way or another, Stephen King will come out of the woodwork and flex his literary muscles. Okay, this is true when it comes to all of his books. Okay, but okay, Pet Cemetery is a bit of a drag. It is a bit of a hassle. I was really excited. Okay, by the 200 page mark, I was already like, okay, this is getting a bit extensive. This is getting prolonged for no reason. Nothing is really happening of worth. And dare I say, after 200 pages, it seemed a bit like filler, and I was getting this growing suspicion that usually happens with a lot of Stephen King, that the last couple of pages will be the point where something actually happens of worth. And it kind of is, right? When it comes to Stephen King, on occasion, 30 or 40% of the time, when it comes to Stephen King, the last part of his books are actually the place where something crazy happens, and you're just like, oh boy, here we go, finally. This is the case with Pet Sematary. It just drags on its feet for the longest time. And I understand. Listen, I'm a writer myself. I understand about setting the stage, setting the mood, getting to know the characters, etc., etc. But it just prolongs for such a long time that I'm just like, okay, bro, let's move on. I get it. This uh, Lewis Creed moves to another place. He brings his family, and listen, Stephen King to me is not subtle at all in this book whatsoever, because from the first page, we are bombarded time and time again on a loop that you see that road over there. That road is dangerous. All sorts of trucks are, always moving about at high speed. And let me tell you, a lot of animals get hit by cars in this here place. Over the years, a lot of animals, a lot of pets have been taken out by all of these big ass trucks. Wink, wink, and you be careful out there, Lewis Creed, because wink, wink. You'll better look both ways before you cross, because these trucks, they're gonna hit you. Wink, wink, right? And this keeps on repeating. No subtlety, no subtlety at all. And from the beginning, I was just like, okay, bro, who's gonna get hit by the truck? Who's gonna die? Somebody's gonna get hit by a damn truck. There is absolutely no subtlety whatsoever when it comes to, let's call it, one of the main plot points of this novel. you know Absolutely, I was waiting, I was thinking, waiting and thinking to myself, okay, but when is it gonna happen? It's probably gonna be one of the kids, right? One of the kids is gonna get hit by the car, by the truck, and out of desperation, Lewis Creed is gonna do something crazy with the pet cemetery and the Micmac burial grounds, and listen, here's another thing. Can we move on from this ancient Indian burial ground? Okay, it has become this MacGuffin when it comes to Stephen King. It's a bit overplayed in my view. When it was mentioned, yeah, these Micmac Indians, yeah, they were here a long time ago. And oh yeah, this place you see here, yeah, it's an ancient grave site or whatever. It's a special place. And I was just like, here we go again, a magical Indian burial ground. Something crazy is gonna happen, of course. It's a bit overplayed, right? But let me say this, okay? Let me say this because I'm not a fan of this, okay? As you can see on my edition, we have the cat prominently displayed on the front cover. The cat, Winston Churchill, the Creed family calls it a church. And I thought at the beginning, okay, this cat, see, because I didn't know nothing about Pet Sematary, right? So I thought, okay, this cat is gonna be a main thing. This cat is gonna pop off. Something crazy is gonna happen with this cat, and nothing will be the same ever again. This cat, I thought, Church, is gonna be the pivotal point where the story just goes into crazy spheres. Absolutely not true, in my view, okay? Church, the cat, is almost inconsequential, irrelevant, downright a red herring, downright just, what happened? What is this? Listen, to me, if you're a writer and you present certain things, you have to deliver. You have to deliver on your promise, okay? And the cat is not important in the least whatsoever, okay? Because, of course, the cat gets hit by a truck, right, on that fucking street, and of course, Lewis, our protagonist, takes the cat with the help of this neighbor, and this neighbor knows, that beyond the pet cemetery where everybody has, buried their pets that got hit by the trucks over the years, this old guy, this neighbor, knows that beyond this pet cemetery there is another cemetery, and the legend says that, the Micmac natives, buried their dead there or whatever, right? And it has magical powers, right? So Lewis Creed takes this dead cat and buries it, and wouldn't you know it, the cat comes back to life. Okay, because that place, that burial ground, that pet cemetery beyond the pet cemetery has special eldritch supernatural powers. And I was like, yeah, this cat's gonna come back to life, and this cat's gonna be strange. This cat's gonna be odd. This cat is gonna be nefarious, and this cat will have evil intents, and its behavior will not be explained, because what happened to this cat is inexplicable, but of course it's obvious from the exact moment that this cat comes back to life that it has changed somehow. It has been altered, and it has a vibe that is a bit wicked. It is a bit off-putting, right? And I thought, okay, this cat's gonna do something. This cat, because we can make the claim somewhat that the cat is a bit of a quasi semi-zombie. Okay, so whoever dies and is buried in the other cemetery beyond the pet cemetery, they come back to life, but they're not really the same as they once were. You could say that they become sort of zombies, but not really. So I thought, okay, this zombie cat, this cat is gonna be the reason why everything is gonna go crazy. I thought this cat is gonna cause some mischief. This cat will be up to shenanigans, tomfoolery. I thought, okay, this cat is a zombie, maybe possessed by an evil entity. This cat will probably, scratch somebody, bite somebody, and that person will become infected, and this is how this cat will create ghouls or whatever, right? And this was one of my theories. I thought, okay, this cat is obviously not the same after coming back to life. I considered even the possibility that maybe this cat was possessed by something else, and that was cool to me. I thought, okay, here we have Stephen King flexing his muscles, right? But it isn't so at all. There is actually no explanation, not really. But I would have liked a bit of hints, a couple of hints that allude to maybe a possibility that the dead people who are buried, maybe they get possessed by something else, by spirits, demons, whatever. That would have been cool and scary, but we don't really know. And, that's about it. This cat, folks, nobody can tell me any different. This cat that is displayed so prominently on the front cover is absolutely irrelevant. It is at best, Church the cat who comes back to life is a plot device at best, and that's it. This cat doesn't really do anything. This cat really doesn't change anything, not really. By the end, I'm pretty tired of this cat. And another thing, okay, another thing, we have a little girl on this cover, right? And it's obvious that it is Ellie, Louis Creed's, older daughter, and I thought, okay, something's gonna happen to this girl. Because she's holding a knife, and this has absolutely no connotations, no implications, and no connection to the actual novel, to the actual story. And I guess this cover was specially made for the 2019 movie or TV show, whatever it was, right? Because in the 2019 movie or TV show, whatever it was, it's actually the girl, Ellie, who gets hit by a truck. Whereas in the actual novel by Stephen King, the little boy, his son, Gage, is the one that gets hit by a truck. So I don't understand why they put this girl Ellie on the cover. Maybe it's promotional for the 2019 adaptation. I don't know. Okay, but here we are at one of the main, if not the main, things that happens in this novel, which is that Louis Creed's young boy, I think he's 2 or 3 years old. He, of course, obviously, as expected, gets run over by a big ass truck at high speed, and Gage dies. And of course, the Creed family are absolutely devastated, right? And this is what I want to compliment Stephen King's writing, his mastery. In this book, Stephen King just really captures grief, and mourning, and the grief of losing a child. See, I'm not a parent, so I don't know what losing a child is like, but Stephen King does an amazing job, a damn good job in a Pet Sematary. He just captures the despair which pushes Louis Creed, the father, to the point where he decides, despite his better judgment, because of his grief and desperation, he decides to bury his little son in that, cemetery beyond the pet cemetery. And of course, Gage comes back to life. And here is something that confuses me. Because, of course, we keep hearing stories about individuals that came back to life and animals, pets that came back to life. And we hear on occasion that, a bull that came back to life went crazy, and a person back in the day came back to life, and that person was a bit weird, a bit crazy, a bit different, acting different, maybe a bit violent. But when Gage, this little boy, comes back to life, like he pops off. He goes crazy, he goes berserk, he's like a feral animal, he's creepy as fuck. And, to me, there is absolutely no explanation why Gage should be this feral, this wild and ferocious. And listen, this little kid, this little boy that comes back to life is just an unstoppable machine of, basically a cataclysm, right? And I'm just like, well, what is the reason why? Because we don't have any previous examples to make this to make any sense of this. What I'm saying is that there is no consistency. It seems random, and it seems that Gage goes absolutely crazy for the sake of plot convenience. Okay, and that's just my view. And of course, finally at the end, our boy, our protagonist, Louis Creed, has to take out his own zombie son. So Louis kills Gage, and Gage dies a second time. But of course, during his rampage, this little zombie kid had some casualties. Right, so the neighbor, the elderly neighbor, gets killed, and Rachel, Lewis's wife, also dies because Gage, attacks her with a scalpel, I think. And so, yet again, at the end, because of desperation and just utter grief and maybe a bit of insanity, of course, by this point, Louis Creed is insane anymore, and he can't deal with such a loss. Yet again, Louis Creed, despite his better judgment, takes his wife this time, his dead wife, to the Micmac burial ground. And of course, by the end, Rachel comes back as a zombie ghoul, whatever, possessed maybe, comes back to life. And this is how the book actually ends. Lewis is by himself in his home. His hair has gotten white because all of the stress and craziness. So he isn't of sound mind anymore, and he's like playing cards or whatever. And his dead wife comes from behind and kind of hugs him from behind, and she speaks, "Hey, honey," or whatever. And that's how the story ends. And of course, the implications are crazy. I really love what Stephen King does with the ending, because we're just left on this cliffhanger, and I'm just like, what's gonna happen? I guess maybe zombie Rachel, kills Lewis and goes on a rampage, just like Gage. Who knows? But the problem is, what is so interesting about Rachel coming back to life is that she was really fresh when she was put in the ground in that special soil, whereas with the other pets and even Gage, they were dead for who knows how long, days, right? Whereas Rachel was dead for a couple of hours, maybe. So maybe she possesses a bit more of, consciousness or cognizance, okay? But the last thing I want to talk about, which, listen, there is a bit of a problem here with being realistic in this novel. What do I mean by that? When, this is the example. It's not realistic because when Church, the cat, comes back to life, Lewis is in his garage, he's working on something, and when he turns, he gets a bit frightened and surprised and shocked by the cat being there, alive again. And here is why this is not realistic, because after being surprised and a bit scared, Lewis goes back to living his life and doing whatever. And immediately he notices that the cat ain't right. That cat just ain't right. He notices immediately, and he just goes back to work and doing whatever, chores. And I'm just like, this is not realistic. Like if this happened to me and my cat came back to life, I would be like, oh well, it's time to kill it with fire. Like, I wouldn't go back to making macaroni and cheese. We got a zombie cat to deal with, and of course, in the novel, Lewis is a bit apprehensive. He evades the cat, because he is a bit puzzled by it. He's a bit aloof, maybe even frightened, but he just, right? This is not realistic. Okay, this happens for the plot convenience. The cat comes back to life. It smells like, feces and, rancid soil, and it's obvious that its behavior has changed dramatically. The cat is a bit sinister. Okay, and Lewis Creed, our protagonist, he's like, well, this cat kind of scares me, but oh boy, oh well, that's it. Going back to my chores, and absolutely unacceptable, right? And I understand that, he brings the cat back to life because he doesn't want to, traumatize his daughter who loves this cat so much, to tell her, your cat died. But it's just, if it were me, instead of Lewis, and I see this cat acting sus, because this cat is sus, and this cat is prowling about, and this cat is getting a bit too close to these kids and just hiding and maybe stalking, I would be like, well, it's time to bring out the flamethrower, and it's just, to me, this was the one moment that seemed incredibly unrealistic, absolutely unacceptable. Right, any normal person would have just done everything in their power to get rid of this zombie cat. Instead, Lewis Creed is, for the sake of plot convenience, he just treats it like, whatever. This book, unfortunately, wasn't scary at all to me. It's obviously not the scariest story ever written by Stephen King, but it was decent. In this one, Stephen King manages to capture absolute grief in its absolute purity. The scenes where Lewis Creed, goes back to unearth his dead boy and the soil and the casket, and taking his dead son and just from the cemetery and putting his dead son in the car and going back to the Micmac burial grounds and all of that, the desperation, the almost insanity and madness of it all. Stephen King does a masterful job, even a genius job, of just depicting what total grief is. And, when logic, reason are completely overwhelmed by grief and just hurt and pain because of a lost loved one. People are capable of anything. So Lewis Creed, bringing back his son and his wife who are both dead, bringing them back to life, that is absolutely realistic, and that can be explained perfectly. That is absolutely realistic. It makes sense. But him just accepting the resurrected cat like it ain't no biggie, that is the one moment that is not realistic at all. And quickly, I forgot to mention another thing. I just remembered another unrealistic thing about Pet Sematary, which is that we find out from this elderly neighbor, I forgot what his name is, the one that smokes all the time. We find out through him that yes, over the generations, over the decades, people in this town have known that, yeah, there's this special place over yonder in them woods that bring pets and people back to life. And the people and the pets that come back to life, they ain't right. right? So people have known about this, Micmac burial ground for ages. They know that something supernatural is going on there. They know that it's sinister. They know that it is nefarious and wicked. They absolutely understand that when pets and people come back, they're not themselves anymore, and they act strange, sometimes even crazy. Sometimes they're even a bit dangerous. And what is so unrealistic about this is that nobody does anything. Nobody does anything. Nobody, like, if it were me, I would be like, oh, I would bring cameras, I would bring news people, I would bring everybody, and I would just like, bro, do you know this place that brings dead things back to life? Do you know about this? Film it. POV shots. From every angle. I would call the police, I would call Secret Service, I would call the fucking Boy Scouts. We need to document this. Okay? And these people in this little town, they act like, well, it ain't my problem, right? At least it's not in my backyard. Like, these people are so chill with the fact that there is a place in their town that brings dead things back to life. And those dead things might be potentially dangerous, harmful, violent. And these people, right? These people in classic Stephen King fashion, they're like, well, it doesn't bother my ass. Yeah, it's a bit scary, but, if you don't think about it, it can't, bother you. These people are not worried. And I'm just like, huh? Right? If it were me, man, I tell you what, like, I would experiment. I'd find, like, an animal that got hit by a truck, and I would bury it, and I would film that bitch, because it basically takes a day for the dead thing to come back to life. Like, I would bring my relatives, I would bring my neighbors, I would bring anybody, everybody. Right? Do you understand what's going on here? This is absolute proof that something strange is happening, that maybe something, there is an afterlife, and it is evil. This is proof that there is a power beyond the spectrum, that maybe, this is absolute proof, confirmation that something beyond humanity and the perceptible reality exists, and it might not be good. And these people act like it ain't no biggie, right? Especially these are, one of the traditional, traditional religious people, Methodists, Baptists, Catholics, these kind of people, right? New Englanders, whatever. So these are, religious people stuck in their ways. All they know is Jesus and, hallelujah, amen. And they have this place in their town that exhibits the undeniable, truth that, this might be blasphemous, whatever, evil, demonic, beyond logic, beyond common sense, beyond anything, right? It might be pure evil. And these people, you're telling me that these people are chill? At least for 100 years, generations of people, they're just chill, right? They're just chill with having this place. And they're okay with the fact that their kids, on occasion, will go by themselves into this weird place and bring back their dead pets to life. And they're chill with this. Like, are these people stupid? Are these people stupid? Right? Are these people stupid? Morons, right? If it were me, like, I would move away or bring every kind of priest to this place, or bring out the Ghostbusters. I don't know. Exorcists. Something. These people just live their lives like nothing out of the ordinary is happening here. That's crazy. That's wild. If you enjoy this content, if you want to support your boy, I got a few books of my own on Amazon. The link will be down below. If the link does not work, you can search my name, Griffith Samsara. Thanks for watching. Keep on reading good books. See ya.